Welcome to TriTech University. My name is Bill Steppen, and today we are going to do a dive into the function of reserving your stations for your customers. And once again, I am getting feedback here on my voices, so let me make sure I muted that. Okay. Let's try that again. So, welcome everyone. I'm glad you're here, and I see that we do have several folks viewing our session today. If you click to the to the chat menu over there on the right-hand side of the screen, you can log in down below. You can click where you can log in with your Facebook handle or your Twitter handle, or you can simply click that nickname button, put in your name, and go ahead and say hi. Hello, Devin. How are you? Glad to see that you're here. And if there's any questions throughout today's session, go ahead and use that chat box to let me know what your questions are as we take a look at how to reserve stations for your customers. Hopefully everyone here has already kind of reviewed the function of stations themselves. If you haven't, you may be a little lost today, but feel free to stick around, and if there's any questions, just let me know, and we'll try and get those answered as best as we can. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump over to my demo copy here that I have set up for a firearms industry. That's probably the majority of our customers that are using this type of function. Certainly if you are, let's say, a golf range where you're reserving times for your customers to come and use the driving range, or if you're using our station functionality for any other purposes, the concepts remain the same. Just bear with us as we use this as kind of our primary demonstration point. So, a first couple of things that we're going to take a look at. These are really not necessary, but you may find them helpful. We're going to go ahead and take a look at some system variables that revolve around station reservations. So here in the variables, we can go ahead and drill down to anything regarding reservations by simply starting to type in the name of reservations into the contains box there. And there's three primary ones here for station reservations: station reservation buffer, station reservation interval, and station reservations default length. So let's just take a look at those in that order. So this controls basically the buffer time in minutes for station reservations. In other words, if this is set to 60, for example, which it is by default, anyone who's trying to actually use a station where there's a reservation within 60 minutes of that time, it's going to basically come up and say, there's something reserved within the next hour. Are you sure that you want that to happen? You can set that to whatever you'd like it to be. Again, the default is 60. The station reservation interval is essentially how you can quickly determine the amount of time that the reservation is going to be jumping back and forth when you scroll up and down on the essentially what we call the wheel of the reservation form. Hello, Kara. How are you? Nice to see you. And the last one here, station reservation default length. I've set this to be 60 minutes just because I'm kind of assuming that my normal amount of time that someone might reserve a lane or a station is 60 minutes, but obviously you can set that to whatever you might want it to be. As you can see, the default value for that is 0. Okay. So let's go ahead and take a look at an actual reservation. Now, by the time we're done here, I'm going to show you essentially two ways of adding a reservation. But the most straightforward way is to go straight to the reservation form itself. If we go to modules and daily posting, we'll go down to station reservations. Now, when you're in this program, let me see if I can't zoom in on this just to make it a little bit bigger. Just kind of update my display here. Okay, so hopefully this is a little bit easier to see now. So when you're looking at this window, up at the top you can see there's a data filter, and essentially what this is going to show is any reservations kind of starting with today and working your way forward. Anything that would be there already is going to show up on this table. Now, Let's go ahead and add one because we don't have any reservations right now. You can do that simply by clicking the Add button here. And of course, this brings up our good old customer search bar where you can look for any existing customers. We're just going to go ahead and pick on our good old stand boy, Mike Anderson here. So he would like to reserve his favorite lane, which happens to be lower deck 1, and he's going to come in, let's say in 20 minutes, just for the purposes of this broadcast. So we can see by clicking on that, it's going to default here to the current date and time. So 1:05 p.m. here locally in the central time zone. I'm going to go ahead and make that be at the half-hour mark. So I'm just going to click the 30-minute marker there just to make it be right at 1:30. I can click away from there, and you can see here's the default length. I remember I said I set that to be 60 minutes. I can go up or down on that. You can see here's that 15-minute spinner that we were talking about before with that other variable. So that's what's controlling that. I can also set how many guests he might be bringing. I'm going to leave that at 0 for now. And then I'm going to go ahead and select the rate that he should get when he arrives. I'm going to go ahead and say that he's the public rate. And I'm going to go ahead and save that. Now you might notice there is a button here that says copy to other stations. If you need to reserve essentially that same lane or that same information for multiple lanes, say for example you've got a birthday party coming up and you've got them bringing X number of guests, you could use this button to copy that to any other locations or any other stations at that location so that you can essentially reserve those as well. But for now, that's basically all we need to do. You can simply fill that in and click the Save button, and we can see there is now the reservation there of account 201, reserving lower deck 1 at 1:30 this afternoon for 60 minutes. Let's go ahead and see exactly what that looks like now when we go to our station program. So let me go ahead and reset the screen here. Try and get it back to the regular size. There we go. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and jump right into point of sale. And we don't even necessarily need to know who the customer is at this time. So I'm just going to go ahead and close this customer search box. And we're going to go right to the stations menu where we've got all of our stations set up. Now, nothing out of the ordinary is going to be here right now, but watch what happens when we go to lower deck 1. We can see that there's a new message here that says that this station reserved at 1:30 p.m. by Mike Anderson. And if we try to add a new user, it's going to let us know, hey, there's a reservation at 1:30. Do you want to continue anyway? Yes or no? Well, let's say no. Let's just go ahead and pull in that reservation. So we simply click that button. And there is the reservation for Mike Anderson with no guests at 1:30 for the length of 60 minutes. We'll go ahead and select that. And you can see it's pulled all that in. It's already selected the public rate for me. And we'll just go ahead and pretend it is now 1:30. So we'll go ahead and start that timer. And away he goes. He is now on that lane and the lane is active. So that's basically how the idea of the reservation functions. Let me know if there's any questions with that. I do want to talk about another way of working with reservations, but before we get to that, I do want to talk a little bit about some things you may need to do with a reservation in the meantime. So let's say you need to edit or tweak or otherwise just look up your reservations. Let's go ahead and close out of the point of sale. And we're going to go back to that daily posting menu. So we're going back to modules and daily posting. And we're going to go back to the station reservations program. And we can see that reservation is no longer there because it's been pulled in. Let's go ahead and bring in a new one. And let me go ahead and zoom in again, just to make this again, hopefully a little bit easier to see. So let's go ahead and add someone else. We'll use the add button and we'll pull in my other go-to guinea pig, Monsieur Pepperoni. And let's say that he or she, I'm not quite really haven't determined what they are. Let's say they want lower deck 2. So we'll just kind of do the same thing. We'll say that this is for, again, maybe 1:30. And they want the 60 minutes. They want one guest, and they're going to do the public rate. Okay, perfect. We'll go ahead and save that. So we can see that showing up there. We can exit out of that. But let's say, oh, they just called back. They need to adjust that reservation. Not a big deal. You can go back to that same menu. You can't see it, but I'm coming back to that same station reservations drop down up there in the daily posting menu where that reservation exists. And of course, I'm already highlighted on it, but you could click on any existing reservation here and all of the details will show up over here. So let's say, oh, you know what? They need to push that back to 2 o'clock. Not a big deal. With it highlighted, you can click to the start option here and simply change it to be whatever the start time needs to be. So I just made the adjustment there to make it move to 2 p.m. And now instead of there being just one guest, let's say they're bringing in an additional guest and they want to go ahead and reserve an additional lane with that. Not a big deal. So you can see I had to save that. Now I can go ahead and copy that to, let's say, lower deck 3, which would be, of course, right next to lower deck 2. You can see lower deck 2 is not showing up there because that's already been reserved. We can also see that right now lower deck 1 is technically currently occupied, so it's letting us know the current status of all of those as well. Let's go ahead and save that. So that has been copied successfully, and there are now the 2 entries there. Again, let me know if there's any questions with this. Hopefully it's fairly straightforward so far. So that's how you can edit a reservation using that same form, the station reservations program. I want to show you another way of working with your reservations. Some of you may find this process a little bit easier. We also have, if I come back up here and look at the drop-down menu, I'll just kind of shift the whole menu up there. Let's take a look at modules and daily posting, and we'll see there's what's called a station calendar. Let's go ahead and click into that, and we'll recenter this over here. So with the station calendar, this is essentially a way to view your stations in essentially real time. Up at the very top, let me see if I can zoom in even more. Up at the very top, you can see there are some functions here for going in and looking at the time range and how many stations we're looking at. Let's go ahead and make this be multiple stations. So I'm looking at 4 stations right now. And down at the bottom of the page is a scroll bar. So I can use this to kind of scroll back and forth between stations. Again, I apologize. I'm trying to zoom in as much as possible so it's a little bit easier to see. But when I scroll back and forth on that, you can kind of see the deck numbers are shifting around through there. Let me go ahead and just make this be back to full screen just so you can kind of see this all as I'm handling it. And I'm still working on learning the program that I'm working with here as well. So let me know if that's too small or if you prefer to be zoomed in. But we can kind of see here, in fact, if you are familiar with our scheduling module, it's very similar to the concept of that, where you can go in and you can kind of click and right click and you can edit or cancel or even delete a reservation if you need to. Or if you go to an empty slot, let's say we need someone, let's say we need to reserve the lower deck at that 2 p.m. time slot, we can go right to it and we can right click and we can go straight to doing a new reservation, where we can see it will bring up that same customer search bar. Let's pull up, do I have a John in here? I thought I did. Yep, John Robbins. And we can see it's already pulling in the details here. So we've got it at location Dubuque, station lower deck 1 at that 2 p.m. slot. It's going to be for the 60 minutes. And we'll go ahead and let's pretend he's a member. So he's going to get the member rate. And we'll go ahead and save that. And of course, it's letting me know that that station is already reserved because technically that's in use right now. Okay, yep, so Mike is actually using that station right now. So he can't use that, so let's just make it be at 2:30, just to adjust that a bit. So we can see now it's moved that down ever so slightly, and now that station is reserved in that window there. So you may find this a little bit more straightforward with using the reservation functions for, I know, for example, for me, I like having the calendar view. It's a little bit easier for me to just kind of glance at that and see what is where. Now, that being said, if you have a plethora of stations like my test system here does, I've got some 24 stations, and you could technically only really view up to, I believe, 12 at a time. And even that, you can kind of see gets a little cramped there. So if you have a lot of stations, you may opt to want to go back to the other form, the station reservations straight form here, where you can use these grids to kind of sort and browse what's reserved and when they're reserved by. You can click on any station or any column to sort by station or by the start time, by the amount of length, by the account number. You can, of course, right-click and group by those columns. So if we do that, now we can see that all of the different stations that have reservations are kind of grouped together, and then it's a little bit easier to scroll up and down and view them that way as far as the existing reservations. So basically there's a couple of different ways to kind of accomplish the same goal depending on what works best for you. Devin is saying, I like the calendar view, but is there a way to see the reservation that is currently in use on that calendar? And my gut is that probably there is not, Devin, just because I didn't see it showing up there, and obviously that kind of caught me off guard there too, because I'd forgotten that I'd pulled him in. So that being said, what I can do, since I'm sure this will impact everyone who might be using this program, is I will go ahead and just see if there is a way, developmental wise, I will put in a case to our programmers and just see if that's something where that can also be displayed there on the calendar. Speaking of the calendar, there are some system variables that you may find handy regarding the calendar. So if we go back to the system variable settings, and let's just look at stations in particular. So I'm going to go ahead and search by stations. Let me go ahead and zoom in one more time just to make this easier to see. So you can see I'm searching by the term stations now. And when it comes to the calendar, there are several station calendar variables that you may find handy. So for example, let's just start right here where it says station calendar canceled color. So if someone has canceled a reservation, that would show in red on the calendar. As far as the end and start times, that was where it was getting that default starting at 7 a.m. and ending at, I believe, 9 p.m. So that's just in military time format. So whatever you want that date range to show up there for, you can, or rather time range, you can set it up that way. As far as the filter settings, this variable here is the default filter settings for the calendar. The default value is an O, which is to include open reservations, but you could also put in a P to include pulled in reservations. So let's actually, getting back to you, Devin, let's actually try this, because actually I have not messed with this too much. So let's go ahead and hit P to include that, and let's actually do this. So any number of options can be entered. So let's go O space P. Let's try that. We'll work this out together. So let's now go back and take a look at the calendar. And there we go. We can see that Mike is actually showing up there now. So look at that, Devin. We got that all taken care of there for you. So you'll just want to make sure you've got O and P in those settings, so that way we can see all of those that are currently active as well as that are open. So no case necessary. Getting back to the variables, go back to where we were at before. System variables and stations. Do I have any Bill and Ted fans in the audience? Station. Okay, so getting back to the other options here for the calendar, station calendar late color. If someone is actually late for a reservation, that can be color coded in a particular manner. I've got mine set to be yellow. If it's open, it's just kind of that off-white color. So basically, if it's open, it's not past due, it's not pulled in. The green one here is for the pulled in, so that's what we just saw there with Mike Anderson having been pulled into his active reservation. We already talked about the start time, and then here's the how many can be displayed at any given time by default. So this is set to 1. If I go ahead and set this to 4, you'll notice that when we go back to the station calendar, it will default to 4 stations being viewed at a time up here at the top. So that's a way of presetting that as well. And I think that's just about it for the calendar settings. And while we're here, we might as well just go ahead, since we've got a few minutes here, let's go ahead and talk about some other variables that I don't think I mentioned in the station range lanes webinar from the days past. So you can technically go in and you can tweak the colors of the stations themselves when they're in use and past due and in grace and otherwise. So for example, the station closed, if you flag it as closed, that by default is kind of like a dark red. The default for when it's in that grace period is actually red, but I've changed mine to be kind of this magenta color. So if it's in that window where they're not yet going to be charged for, let's say, another hour of time, but they have some wiggle room to get off the lane and not get charged an extra time slot, that's the grace period. If it's occupied, it's red. I've left that as is. The station overdue. So this is if you're using the countdown timer and it's now gone basically past the time that they've essentially prepaid for. I've made this be kind of an orange color. And again, the default is red. So you may want to tweak that if you do a lot of countdown functions for your range. And then that's basically it. We're getting into the other reservation functions here now. So hopefully that is helpful. And that's about everything that I had regarding station reservations. So hopefully this has been helpful. If there are any other questions, definitely let me know. Let's go ahead and look at my upcoming live stream calendar here for the coming months. So starting next month, I'm going to be kind of doing a little bit of a dive into accounting functions. So we'll be looking at general ledger and accounts payable functions and doing some reconciliation with purchase orders. So if you haven't if you've been looking into how to do that and you want to get more info on that, definitely check out that live stream. That will be on July 27th. So that fourth, I think it's that fourth Tuesday in the month there. And then beyond that, going into the month of August, we'll be doing a kind of a dive into the long-term contracts. So we'll be doing 4 webinars that month, and we'll be looking at the basic setup, the day-to-day functions, and a lot of other things regarding auto pays and delinquencies and write-offs and all kinds of fun things regarding long-term contracts. Kara is asking, how do you change the color? Let's go ahead and take a closer look at that. So let's go back to my screen. So back in those settings for system variables, maintenance, general, and system variables, let's go back to those station variables regarding color. And let's pretend that we wanted to change the occupied color. So we select the variable in question. And then over here, do you see where it says current value, and it's red right here? So what you can do is you can click this little ellipsis button. I don't know if you can actually see my mouse cursor or not now that I think about it. I'll have to probably take a look at the settings here for that. But if you click that little ellipsis button, it brings up your kind of your standard Windows color palette. It'll default to this professional tab where you can select just about any color known to man. But you can then also go to this web tab where they kind of have some preset colors that are all over the place. System colors and basic colors. You may find that this one is the easiest to use, just to kind of grab a color and have it be a little bit easier to define without necessarily having to go through the entire 16 bajillion colors that are on this particular color palette. But basically, whichever one you select, let's go ahead and let's say I want the occupied color to be maybe a kind of a dark teal, or whatever you want to call that, cyan-ish color. So you can just make a selection there, click OK, and you'll see that it's gone ahead and put in what I'll call the RGB, what are known as the RGB values. You could also type them in directly if you knew exactly what you wanted it to have, or in some cases you can even just type in a color, for example, teal. And you'll see it just changes to a teal color in this case. I'm actually going to change that back to red. And then it just goes off of whatever you type in. So you can either type in a color or you can use the color palette. Hopefully that helps there, Kara. And as you can see, there's all kinds of colors that you can use for just basically quickly looking at your stations and knowing what's going on with them. So yeah, I'll stick around here if there's any other questions. And again, hopefully this has been helpful. It's great to see people jumping in and interacting. I should mention that since there's no registration function with this new live stream format, I never really know if you're here or not, unlike before where I knew you would have at least registered ahead of time. So this chat box is really designed to have a lot of back and forth and try and make it a little bit more conversational. I think everyone can actually see the chat as they're going on. So if you even have something, if you see like a name that you might recognize, feel free to say hi. Or if you actually see the question ahead of me and you want to go ahead and try and answer it, by all means, have that conversation. This is essentially not really, but kind of more of an open forum. We're trying to make this be more of an open experience for everyone, and just get those gears going. Make this more of a family, if that helps to think of it that way too. So again, hopefully this has been helpful, and yeah, we'll just hang out here, and if there's anything else we can do regarding station reservations, definitely let me know. And like I said, check out that webinar, or I got to get that term out of my brain, that live stream calendar, the list of all of the upcoming live streams, to see if there's any that float your boat and that might be of interest to you. And then go ahead and make a calendar on your reservation on your own personal calendar, Outlook or Gmail or iCloud or whatever you might be using, just as a reminder that, hey, I got to log in to TriTech University on that day to check out the reservations, or whatever it might be. And one other thing we're working on, we are working on trying to get a kind of like a poll set up on the live stream page, so that if you have ideas that you'd like to see me do for upcoming live streams, you'll be able to submit an inquiry or a suggestion on a live poll that everyone can see and that you can vote on and say, yeah, that's a great idea. Let's go ahead and upvote that. That way, that can also help to get the idea gears going and see, oh yeah, let's go ahead and check that out, without having to guess at what anyone else might be interested in, and hoping that there's enough interest to go ahead, kind of get that to the front of the line. Just because I've got that hope for that set schedule of every second and fourth Tuesdays and every third Thursdays, I'm going to try and be a little bit more open to that. I do want to try and reserve some time for if we have customers that need on-site training and I need to be out of the office, so that I've still got some wiggle room there. But I'm more than open to doing special live streams throughout the month, kind of off that too. So if there's more than enough ideas and we want to get them out there, we'll be definitely making that happen. So appreciate everyone's time for today. Thanks so much, Kara. I see that you're not currently using the module, but it's great to always explore and see what's out there. Thank you so much, Devin, for your questions and your participation. And we'll be, I'm sure, seeing everyone here for the next couple of live streams. Again, hope you can make it a great one. If you got any questions in the meantime, definitely give us a call. You can reach our support team a number of ways now, as you've probably seen. You can access it right through the AIM Help menu. If you're on version 11 or older, you can download the standalone TriTech app, support app, and access your support cases that way. You can actually make reservations for calls now with our support team. If you say, okay, I want to try and reserve a time. I know I'll be available at this time on this day, and I want to see if I can get a call scheduled with support at that time. Definitely check out that reserve a call feature on the help menu. So lots of all ways that we're trying to make this more open to our customers. So thanks, everyone. I'm going to stop myself before I ramble on forever, and we'll see you next time. Take care.